And I shared this with you before. The critique of your work in some ways, and like things that people said that seemed vitriolic, was like, wait, that's exactly what I loved about your book. Like several of those early comments. Someone was like, oh, she seems like a whiny brat, like she's not likable or something. And I thought, that's what I loved about the book, is you weren't trying to be like, hey, yay, I'm Aspen. I've gone through the valleys of darkness or whatever, and I've come through, and here, look how great I am. You were just like, I'm a imperfect, flawed human being still trying to figure this thing out. And that was so refreshing.
Thank you.
So I think it's really important, and I share that with you, but also for other creatives, is that sometimes what other people hate about it may actually be the exact same thing that is what makes it worthwhile. You know?
Thank you. Yeah. And I think that like people who are creative tend to be more like, oh my God, that was so brave to tell the truth. But people who have never done it, to them, it's like extremely threatening, because it's like if I were to expose myself and to say all the things that I've worked so hard to keep hidden and obscured, then I'm sure my world would crumble. And so I have to reject someone doing that, because them doing that threatens the solidity of this life I've constructed. So It's like kind of like the creative people tended to be more like, amen. And the people who, reject I think everyone's creative, but the people who have like repressed the creative aspects of themselves are the ones who are like, you can't do that. That's wrong. That's bad. Like, cancel it.
Totally. It is so vulnerable. And I'm kind of hammering on that a little bit, because I think it's so vital to recognize that there's the disapproval from parents or the doubt from friends or whatever.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah. There are like voices telling you that you should do something other than what feels right to you.
Yeah.
Whatever that be. So my first book is about, I hiked from Mexico to Canada. And when I told people that I was going to do that, pretty much universally, they were like, that sounds dangerous. That sounds like not a good idea. Why would you subject yourself to that? That sounds like a terrible idea for one reason or another. Most people reacted that way. And it was like the best thing I could have done for myself. And I knew that. And it's kind of like you have to let yourself know what you already know and trust yourself and really tune into that like inner knowing, because no one else knows what's right for you. And if you don't live your first choice life, the person who's going to suffer from that the most is you.
Right. And I think, once again, there are two sides to that. Sometimes there's actually something to learn from it. And other times, one of the things to learn from it is, you know what? If you don't like this, then I'm not doing it for you. Right. And for you, as someone who is a rape survivor, that for you, it's like somebody who's going to come and crap on your work, you just didn't do it for them. And that's a sort of a big one. And the other one is someone who's making their first short film or decide, I'm going to write a blog about X, Y, or Z or whatever. Some people are going to show up and they're going to hate that. And it's like, you know what? That, like, as my mother said, that's why Baskin-Robbins made 31 flavors, right? It's totally fine. Yeah. You can hate this. It's just not for you.
Yeah. And I think on another level, the people who are like ambivalent toward it are like, I should really say like apathetic toward it. It's really not for them. But the people who hate it, it might be for them because it's eliciting like a really strong reaction. And it might be like, striking a deep chord that makes them very uncomfortable and confronting them in some way about some way in their life where they've been, playing it safe, or like there's a big theme in Your Blue Is Not My Blue about playing victim. And, it might be illuminating to them the ways in which they've played victim in their lives, and they don't want to see that. And so they have to condemn the book and kill the book so that they don't have to re-see their life, which is so much harder.
I think that you're onto something too. I'm working with a client whose father has not been terribly supportive of her work. It's been really difficult for her. When it comes from a parent or also from the outside, you have two different things. You have on one side, you have somebody who like, I wanted to do something like that. I wanted to make other choices in my life and I didn't. And therefore they have a little bit of resentment. And sometimes also even coming from parents is, I want you to succeed so bad. and that I'm going to over criticize because somehow my criticism is going to be beneficial to your process. And yeah, so I feel like those things can actually really, like what you just said is really important to recognize, like what is it in the other person? You know, what are they missing? What did they wish that they had done? What regrets do they have? What is their story that's bringing them to this place?
Yeah. Something my dad has said to me about himself, like just for context, is like parents are inherently conservative about their kids. Like they want them to survive. That's like the base thing that they want. They want them to like have enough money, enough food, and like taking a huge risk and going into a career that isn't a career, like something with no guarantees, like the creative arts is like kind of like most parents' nightmare. Even if they'll ultimately be blown away by what you achieve, and even if like their higher self is so proud of you, you know.
Exactly.